Who does she think she is? The words cut through the pristine corporate air like a knife. Sarah Connell steps into Vertex Technologies' gleaming lobby, her tailored suit a stark contrast to the receptionist's dismissive glance. The woman barely looks up from her computer. "Deliveries wait over there," she points to a corner area without making eye contact. "I have an appointment with the CEO," Sarah replies, voice steady. The receptionist scoffs. "Sure you do, honey." Roger Whitman, the regional manager, passes by with a colleague. "Another diversity hire interview?" he whispers loudly enough to be heard. Sarah sits quietly, observing everything while her phone buzzes with acquisition timeline texts from her executive team. Little do they know, Sarah isn't here for an interview. She's here to decide if she wants to buy the entire company. Sarah waits in the conference room for 23 minutes. She times it precisely, noting the power play. The glass walls offer a perfect view of employees hurrying past, a few glancing curiously at the lone black woman in the executive meeting room. The door finally swings open. Roger Whitman enters first, followed by Bradley Peters, VP of Operations, and Melissa Chen, Chief Marketing Officer. Their expressions shift subtly upon seeing Sarah, surprise, then rapid recalibration. "You must be from the consulting firm," Roger says, not offering his hand. "We were expecting someone more senior." "Sarah Connell, here for the company assessment." She keeps her introduction deliberately vague, withholding her true title as CEO of Phoenix Innovations, the tech conglomerate currently eyeing Vertex Technologies for acquisition. Bradley takes the seat furthest from her. "So what's your role exactly? Junior analyst?" "I'm here to evaluate company culture and operations," Sarah replies, watching Roger's expression tighten. "Well, we're very traditional here," Roger emphasizes. "Old school values, you know. Not like those Silicon Valley startups where everyone's on beanbags coding in pajamas." The meeting proceeds with clear patterns. When Sarah speaks, Roger checks his phone. When she asks about quarterly projections, Bradley responds to her white male assistant instead. When she makes a point about market positioning, Melissa nods, then restates the exact same idea, which Roger then praises as insightful. "Could you take notes for us?" Roger slides a notepad towards Sarah during the presentation. "Since you're here to observe anyway." Sarah accepts the pad with a slight smile. "Of course." The discussion turns to diversity initiatives. Sarah inquires about representation in leadership. "We hire the best person for the job," Bradley interjects. "Merit only, we don't look at color." "Our industry just doesn't attract certain demographics," Roger adds with a dismissive wave. "Nothing we can do about that." Sarah notices Melissa's slight wince. An ally, perhaps? Or just more aware of how these statements sound? Throughout the meeting, Sarah asks targeted questions that reveal fundamental problems in the company culture, exactly what her preliminary research had suggested. Every dismissive comment, every interrupted sentence, every condescending explanation confirms her suspicions. Sarah makes note on her tablet. Leadership problem more severe than anticipated. Recommend complete executive overhaul post-acquisition. Morning light streams through the windows as Roger drops a stack of financial reports on the table in front of Sarah. "Since you're here to help," he says with a thin smile, "why don't you analyze these market projections? Flag any inconsistencies for us. Should keep you busy until lunch." The task would typically take a full day. Roger knows this. His smirk confirms it. "Certainly," Sarah replies, not missing a beat. "I'll need access to your data visualization software." Roger's smile falters slightly. "Just use Excel like everyone else." 3 hours later, Sarah has completed the entire analysis, including a comprehensive visualization of 5-year trends and 3 critical errors in their forecasting methodology. She presents her findings to a junior analyst who stares at the screen, mouth slightly open. "This would have taken our team days," he whispers. Roger appears behind them, face darkening as he scans her work. "Who helped you with this?" "No one," Sarah answers simply. Impossible, Roger scoffs. You must have called your team. This is proprietary information. I'll need to report this breach. The junior analyst speaks up. Actually, sir, she only used our internal data and systems. I was watching. Roger's jaw tightens. Well, it's still not what we asked for. Too elaborate. Overcomplicating things. Some. Later, Sarah is invited, or rather instructed, to join a conference call with potential investors as the designated note-taker. During the presentation, she spots a critical error in the financial projections that could derail the entire pitch. She writes a note, slides it to Roger. He glances at it, then pushes it aside without reading. Sarah unmutes herself. If I may. Roger immediately presses the mute button on the conference system, silencing her. Sorry about that, just our consultant getting up to speed, he tells the investors with a chuckle. 10 minutes later, the lead investor questions the exact discrepancy Sarah had noticed. Roger fumbles the explanation. The call ends with a tepid, "We'll be in touch," that everyone recognizes as a polite rejection. After the investors disconnect, Roger rounds on Sarah. Next time, don't try to show off. You're here to observe, not participate. Sarah steps into an empty hallway and texts her CFO. Accelerate due diligence. I've seen enough. The upscale restaurant bustles with activity as waiters navigate between tables of Vertex Technologies executives and their potential business partners. Crystal glasses catch the light from overhead chandeliers. Conversations blend into a steady hum of networking and deal-making. Sarah finds her name card at the far end of the long table, physically distanced from all decision-makers. Roger sits at the head, flanked by Bradley and representatives from Meridian Partners, the distribution company Vertex desperately needs to impress tonight. Everyone, welcome. Roger stands, raising his glass. I'd like to introduce our leadership team to our esteemed guests. He proceeds around the table, naming each executive with their title and a personal anecdote. Sarah watches as he introduces every person at the table, except her. When the Meridian CEO glances questioningly toward Sarah, she extends her hand. Sarah Connell, pleasure to meet you. Roger interjects smoothly. Sarah's just temporary, helping with some analysis. His tone suggests an intern, someone wholly unremarkable. The CEO nods and immediately turns away, interest evaporated. The first course arrives. Discussion turns to emerging technologies in supply chain management, innovations that, ironically, Sarah's company pioneered 2 years ago. The integration of blockchain into verification systems is where the real transformation happens, Sarah offers, seeing an opportunity to contribute valuable insight. Bradley looks down the table with thinly veiled irritation. Let the adults handle this conversation, please. We're discussing enterprise-level solutions. A few uncomfortable chuckles ripple through the table. The Meridian executives exchange glances. As I was saying, Bradley continues, proceeding to explain, incorrectly, the very concept Sarah attempted to clarify. Sarah takes a measured sip of water, maintaining her composure while burning with silent rage. 18 years building one of the most innovative companies in the tech sector, revolutionizing entire industries, and here she sits, being shushed like a child at the adults' table. Throughout the dinner, the pattern repeats. When Sarah speaks, she's interrupted. When she makes a point, it's dismissed, then often restated by someone else minutes later to general approval. When she asks a question, answers are oversimplified as if explaining to someone with limited technical understanding. Roger regales the table with a story about a diversity hire who just couldn't keep up at a previous company. His eyes flick to Sarah momentarily, message unmistakable. Excuse me, Sarah says quietly, rising from her seat. I need to make a quick call. No one acknowledges her departure. In the hallway outside the private dining room, Sarah leans against the wall, takes one deep breath, then another. Her hand doesn't shake as she pulls out her phone and dials. Marcus, she says to her chief operating officer. It's time to move to Phase 2. I've seen everything I need to see. That bad? He asks. Sarah watches through the glass as Roger pantomimes what appears to be someone confused by basic technology, clearly referencing her, to the amusement of Bradley and a few others. Worse, she replies. But they've shown their true colors. Have legal ready the paperwork for tomorrow. They have no idea who they're really dealing with, and that's about to become their biggest mistake. The hotel suite's silence envelops Sarah as she removes her earrings and kicks off her heels. For the first time today, her shoulders drop slightly, the perfect posture relaxing just a fraction. She opens her laptop and initiates a secure video call. 4 faces appear on screen, her executive team at Phoenix Innovations. There she is, Marcus Thompson, her COO, says. How was your day playing undercover boss? Sarah doesn't smile. Educational. She connects her phone and plays back recordings from the day. The dismissive receptionist, Roger's diversity hire comment, Bradley's condescension at dinner, the muted conference call. Expressions darken across the screen. Aisha Patel, her chief legal officer, types furiously in a separate window. This is textbook discrimination. We could sue them into oblivion even without the acquisition. That's not our goal, Sarah reminds them. We're here to transform an industry, not just punish bad actors. They deserve punishment, retorts Marcus, voice tight with anger. And they'll get it, Sarah assures him. But strategically, methodically. She stands and moves to the window, looking out at the city skyline. Remember when I started Phoenix? Everyone said I was crazy. The team falls silent. They've heard the story, but never tire of it. 22 banks turned me down. 14 VCs said my vision was unrealistic. One suggested I find a nice young man with business experience to be the face of the company. Sarah turns back to the screen. Now we're valued at $11 billion. Those same people claim they always believed in me. A memory surfaces. Sarah's mentor, Dr. Eleanor Wright, the only black woman CEO in tech when Sarah was starting out. Let them underestimate you, she had advised. It's your superpower. While they're busy dismissing you, you'll be building empires right under their noses. Sarah addresses her team again. Vertex has valuable technology and market position, but toxic leadership. Their company culture is exactly what we're trying to change in this industry. So we're still acquiring? Asks Janelle Washington, her CFO. Absolutely, but I'm accelerating the timeline. I've seen enough to know the entire executive team needs to go, with possibly one exception. Sarah thinks of Melissa's uncomfortable expressions during the most egregious comments. Have the final paperwork ready for tomorrow. I'll create an opportunity. And until then? Marcus asks. Sarah's expression hardens, eyes glinting with resolve. I maintain my cover, but tomorrow they'll see a hint of who I really am. She ends the call and sits in the dim hotel room, mind whirring with plans, counterplans, contingencies. This isn't just business anymore. It's personal. Not out of petty revenge, but because companies like Vertex perpetuate the systems that held back countless innovators like her. Sarah reaches for her suitcase and removes a different outfit for tomorrow, still professional, but with unmistakable power. Sharp lines, bold accessories, nothing that could be mistaken for subordinate or supportive staff. Dr. Wright? She whispers to the empty room, thinking of her mentor, now gone 5 years. Watch me turn their underestimation into their undoing. Tomorrow they'll see just a glimpse of who they're really dealing with. Heads turn as Sarah strides into the morning meeting. Gone is yesterday's understated attire, replaced by a perfectly tailored power suit in deep burgundy. Gold statement earrings catch the light, and her leather portfolio bears the subtle embossed logo of an exclusive design house. Roger notices the shift, his eyes narrowing slightly. Nice of you to join us. We're discussing Q3 projections. Perfect timing, Sarah replies, opening her portfolio to reveal a comprehensive analysis. I've identified several discrepancies in the current projections. Roger's smile tightens. We've already finalized these numbers. Then you've finalized errors, Sarah states, placing copies of her analysis in front of each person. Your growth estimates don't account for the Henderson Act regulations taking effect next month. You're overestimating revenue by approximately 18%. Bradley scoffs. The Henderson Act? That's just proposed legislation. It won't pass. It passed last week, Sarah corrects. The implementation timeline has accelerated. The room falls silent as executives scan her document. Roger attempts to regain control. This is interesting speculation, but it's not speculation, interrupts Victor Zhao, CEO of their largest client, joining by video conference. Ms. Connell is correct. We're already adjusting our contracts accordingly. Roger's face flushes. Well, we were just about to address that. Victor's expression suggests otherwise. Ms. Connell, I'm impressed with your foresight. Perhaps we should discuss how this affects our partnership directly. I'd be happy to prepare a detailed impact analysis, Sarah offers. Excellent, Victor says before Roger can interject. After the meeting, Melissa Chen approaches Sarah in the hallway. That was illuminating. How did you know about the Henderson Act amendments? I pay attention, Sarah says simply. Well, it was impressive. Roger doesn't like being contradicted, especially not in front of clients. As if summoned by his name, Roger appears around the corner. Sarah, a word. His tone brooks no argument. In his office, his facade of collegiality vanishes. Pull something like that again and you're done here. I was merely providing accurate information. You embarrassed me in front of our biggest client, Roger hisses. Since you're so eager to contribute, you can present the Nexus project update tomorrow. It's failing spectacularly. Should be right up your alley. The Nexus project, Vertex's most troubled initiative, months behind schedule and millions over budget. I look forward to it, Sarah replies calmly. Sarah accepts the poisoned chalice with a knowing smile. This is exactly the opportunity she's been waiting for. The clock on Sarah's laptop reads 3:17 a.m. Hotel room coffee sits cold beside stacks of Nexus project documentation, specifications, timelines, budgets, and failure reports. She's been working since leaving Vertex 12 hours ago, dissecting the project's troubled history. The pattern emerges clearly: mismanagement, poor resource allocation, and a fundamental misunderstanding of the target market. But beneath these issues lies salvageable technology with genuine potential. Sarah makes her final notes and closes her laptop. 4 hours of sleep will have to suffice. Morning brings a transformed Nexus project plan. When Sarah arrives at Vertex, she finds a group of junior developers huddled in the break room. Is it true you're taking over Nexus? Asks one, dark circles under his eyes betraying months of impossible deadlines. Just presenting an assessment, Sarah clarifies, but offers them a preview of her recommendations. Their initial skepticism morphs into cautious enthusiasm. That could actually work, says a young programmer. We've been suggesting similar approaches for months. Why weren't your suggestions implemented? Sarah asks. Uncomfortable glances exchange between them. Management doesn't really listen to the technical team. Throughout the day, more staff gravitate towards Sarah, sharing insights, challenges, and ideas. The groundswell of support doesn't go unnoticed. Making friends with the help? Bradley asks when he finds Sarah talking with 2 engineers. Remember, you're just passing through. Don't give them false hope. After he leaves, Sarah continues her research, uncovering more than just project failures. In the HR database, she discovers disturbing patterns. Qualified candidates with ethnic names routinely rejected. Promotion rates for minorities stagnating far below industry averages. Pay disparities that can't be explained by experience or performance. Sarah requests a meeting with the HR director, Valerie Simmons. These patterns are concerning, Sarah notes, displaying the anonymized data. Valerie shifts uncomfortably. We're aware of some discrepancies. Have you addressed them with leadership? I've tried, Valerie admits, lowering her voice. Roger says focusing too much on diversity metrics distracts from real business priorities. Bradley calls it reverse discrimination whenever I suggest changes. Sarah nods, her phone recording the conversation. And how long has this been happening? Years, Valerie sighs. It's why we can't retain diverse talent. Later that evening, Sarah sends a cryptic email to her lawyers. Prepare the documents. We move tomorrow. The Nexus Project presentation room fills quickly. Word has spread about Sarah's revitalization plan, drawing curious executives and hopeful team members alike. Roger enters last, expression smug, clearly expecting a disaster. Sarah stands confidently at the front, digital presentation ready. Thank you all for coming. After reviewing the Nexus project, I've identified both critical failures and untapped opportunities. For the next 20 minutes, she delivers a masterclass in project analysis, outlining systemic issues while proposing concrete, innovative solutions. The room's energy shifts perceptibly. Team members exchange hopeful glances. Executives lean forward with interest. When she concludes, spontaneous applause erupts from the development team. The client representative, who had been considering canceling their contract, approaches immediately. This addresses every concern we've raised for months, she says, impressed. When can implementation begin? Before Sarah can respond, Roger intercepts. Wonderful presentation of the plan our team has been developing. As Sarah mentioned, we've been working on these improvements for some time. Sarah maintains her composure. Actually, I developed this approach overnight based on documentation and team interviews. This is not Vertex's existing plan. The client looks between them, confusion evident. Let's discuss offline, Roger says tightly, steering the client away. Sarah tends to misunderstand internal communications. Later, Sarah overhears Bradley speaking to another executive in the hallway. Neither notices her presence around the corner. Another affirmative action consultant thinking she can revolutionize everything, Bradley says. You know how these people are. Talk big, deliver nothing. Just here to check their diversity boxes. At least she's nice to look at, the other man chuckles. Better enjoy the view while it lasts. Roger's already talking to the consulting firm about replacing her. Sarah records the conversation discreetly, adding it to her growing collection of evidence. As she returns to her temporary office, James Turner, the company's financial officer, approaches cautiously. That Nexus presentation was brilliant, he says quietly. But you should know, Roger's been undermining you to the board, claiming you're disrupting company culture. Thank you for telling me, Sarah responds. Some of us see what's happening here, James continues, glancing around nervously. If there were changes coming, some of us would welcome them. Interesting perspective, Sarah replies. There might indeed be changes soon. Roger appears suddenly, eyes cold. Sarah, my office, now. Inside, his pretense vanishes. You're done here. I'm terminating your contract effective immediately. You can't fire me, Roger, but after tomorrow, I could definitely fire you. Roger freezes, momentarily stunned by Sarah's statement. What did you just say to me? Sarah remains perfectly calm. You heard me correctly. Security will escort you out, Roger snarls, reaching for his phone. I wouldn't do that if I were you, Sarah advises. It would make tomorrow's board meeting even more uncomfortable. Roger's finger hovers over the intercom. What board meeting? There's nothing on the schedule. The emergency meeting called 30 minutes ago by Chairman Davis. Regarding the company's financial crisis and, she pauses deliberately, potential acquisition options. A flicker of panic crosses Roger's face. What do you know about that? Everything, Sarah replies simply. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have preparations to make. She walks out, leaving Roger staring after her, confusion and anger battling across his features. The following morning, Vertex Technologies' executive boardroom fills with tense energy. Board members murmur among themselves while Roger, Bradley, and other executives huddle in concerned consultation. Chairman Davis calls the meeting to order. As you're all aware, our financial position has become untenable. The Meridian partnership falling through was the final blow. We need to discuss survival options, including potential acquisition. Roger immediately takes control. This situation isn't of our making. Market forces, supply chain issues, and frankly, some staff underperformance have created temporary challenges. But my team has a recovery plan. For the next 20 minutes, Roger presents a grandiose turnaround strategy built on shaky assumptions and creative accounting. Board members look increasingly skeptical. Any questions? Roger concludes confidently. Chairman Davis glances around the room. I'd like to hear from someone with a fresh perspective. Ms. Connell, you've been assessing our operations. Your thoughts? Sarah rises slowly, all eyes turning toward her. She buttons her blazer, a power move executed with deliberate precision. My assessment is complete, she begins, and it's not favorable. Roger interjects. With all due respect, Sarah is a junior consultant with limited— I'm not a consultant, Roger, Sarah interrupts. Her voice changes subtly, more commanding, accustomed to authority. My name is Sarah Connell, founder and CEO of Phoenix Innovations. The room falls into stunned silence. For those unfamiliar with Phoenix, she continues, we're a technology conglomerate valued at $11 billion, and we've been considering Vertex Technologies for acquisition. Bradley's coffee cup freezes halfway to his mouth. Roger's face drains of color. Sarah opens her portfolio, revealing acquisition documents. The majority shareholders have already approved our offer. I've spent the past week conducting a final cultural assessment before completing the deal. As realization dawns across the room, Sarah activates the presentation screen, displaying moments from the past week, the receptionist's dismissal, Roger's diversity hire comments, Bradley's condescension, the conference call muting incident, all captured discreetly but clearly. The technology is salvageable, the company position is recoverable, the leadership, however, is not. Sarah walks around the table, calm and controlled. You never bothered to Google me, did you, Roger? Too certain I was exactly who you assumed me to be. Memories click into place for everyone in the room, the receptionist who never checked Sarah's appointment details. Roger interrupting her attempts to save the investor call, Bradley dismissing her blockchain expertise, technology her company pioneered, her comprehensive analysis completed in hours, dismissed as impossible. The Nexus Project resurrection that the team embraced immediately, Melissa sits with a barely concealed smile. James Turner looks vindicated. Bradley appears physically ill. You were spying on us? Roger finally manages. I was evaluating a potential 8-figure investment, Sarah corrects. Standard due diligence. What I discovered was a company with promising technology hampered by toxic leadership and discriminatory practices. She distributes copies of her full report to each board member. Page 12 details documented instances of discrimination. Page 26 outlines regulatory compliance issues. Page 40 contains my recommendations for restructuring. Chairman Davis flips through the document, expression grave. These allegations are serious and meticulously documented, Sarah confirms. Phoenix Innovations doesn't just acquire companies, we transform them. We build inclusive cultures where innovation thrives. The question before you today isn't whether Vertex will be acquired. That decision is made. The question is, who will remain afterward? Roger stands abruptly. This is a hostile takeover. No, Roger, Sarah replies. This is consequences. The chairman raises his hand for silence. Ms. Connell, or should I say CEO Connell, clearly we have much to discuss regarding this acquisition. Indeed, Sarah agrees, glancing at her watch. My executive team is waiting outside. Shall I invite them in? Now, let's discuss the terms of this acquisition and who won't be part of the company's future. The boardroom doors open to admit Sarah's executive team from Phoenix Innovations. Marcus Thompson, COO, enters first. tall, imposing, and radiating the quiet confidence of someone who has nothing to prove. He's followed by Janelle Washington, CFO, carrying financial portfolios, and Aisha Patel, Chief Legal Officer, wheeling a small case of documented evidence. Roger's attempt to regain control is immediate. "This is completely inappropriate. We haven't agreed to any acquisition." Chairman Davis clears his throat. "Actually, Roger, I've been in discussions with Phoenix for months. The board authorized exploratory talks after our third straight quarter of losses." "Without informing the executive team?" Roger's voice rises in pitch. "A decision made precisely because of concerns about current leadership," Davis responds firmly. Sarah takes her place at the head of the table, a position Roger reluctantly vacates. The power dynamics shift visibly as Vertex executives find themselves suddenly accountable to someone they'd dismissed days earlier. "Let's proceed efficiently," Sarah begins. "Phoenix Innovations is prepared to acquire Vertex Technologies for $247 million, a fair premium over current market valuation, contingent upon specific leadership changes and corporate culture reforms." Janelle distributes financial analyses demonstrating the offer's generosity given Vertex's precarious position. "This is robbery," Bradley protests. "We're worth twice that." "Not according to any reasonable market metric," Janelle counters, highlighting declining share values and failed product launches. "Your Q4 projections show insolvency by February without emergency measures." Roger attempts a different approach. "Sarah, let's be reasonable. Perhaps we got off on the wrong foot, but we can work together moving forward. I have valuable institutional knowledge." "Which brings us to the leadership changes," Sarah interrupts smoothly, nodding to Aisha. The lawyer opens her case, extracting carefully organized documentation. "Our investigation revealed multiple violations of labor laws, equal employment regulations, and company policies." She displays evidence chronologically: emails, recordings, witness statements, and statistical analyses. "The pattern of discrimination isn't isolated to a few incidents," Aisha explains, her professional tone making the damning evidence even more powerful. "It's systemic throughout senior leadership, creating a hostile work environment that has directly impacted business performance." Board members examine the evidence with increasing discomfort. One whispers audibly, "This is a lawsuit waiting to happen." "It already happened," Aisha corrects. 3 former employees filed discrimination suits that were quietly settled last year. The NDAs prevented public disclosure, but our legal team obtained court records. Roger's face contorts with anger. "You had no right to." "Public records," Aisha interrupts. "Available to anyone who looks." Chairman Davis removes his glasses, rubbing the bridge of his nose. "These allegations are extremely serious." "They're not allegations," Sarah corrects. "They're documented violations with substantial evidence. As the acquiring company, Phoenix has legal obligation to address these issues immediately." Marcus presents the proposed reorganization plan. "We've identified several Vertex employees for retention and promotion, people whose talents have been systematically overlooked." He distributes profiles of promising staff members, including many women and people of color who've received consistently excellent performance reviews, yet remained in junior positions. "This is reverse discrimination," Bradley protests, "promoting people based on race rather than merit." "No," Marcus counters firmly. "This is correcting years of documented bias that prevented qualified people from advancing. Every person on this list is exceptionally qualified based on performance metrics your own system generated." The board discussion intensifies as executives debate the implications. Throughout the conversation, Sarah notices Melissa Chen taking careful notes, occasionally nodding at points about cultural transformation. During a brief recess, Sarah approaches her. "You've been quiet, Melissa." "Processing," Melissa admits. "I've seen the problems for years but felt powerless to change anything." "Silence enables toxic systems," Sarah observes without accusation. "I know." Melissa looks down. "I justified staying by thinking I could help from within, but mostly I just survived." made compromises I'm not proud of. We all make compromises, Sarah acknowledges. The question is what you do when given the opportunity to break the cycle. When the meeting reconvenes, Sarah presents the complete acquisition plan. Phoenix will retain approximately 87% of Vertex staff. We'll implement immediate cultural reforms, including bias training, transparent promotion pathways, and mentorship programs. She outlines specific changes: salary adjustments to eliminate gender and racial pay gaps, revised recruitment practices, and accountability metrics for management. The acquisition agreement requires approval from the current board, Sarah concludes. But understand this is non-negotiable. Roger Whitman and Bradley Peters will not remain with the company. Roger stands abruptly, face flushed. This is outrageous. I built this company. And now you've lost it, Sarah replies calmly. Roger scans the room for allies, finding few. Even longtime supporters avoid his gaze, unwilling to align themselves with a sinking ship. The employees will revolt, he threatens. They're loyal to current leadership. Sarah raises an eyebrow. Are they? Let's find out. She reveals the results of an anonymous staff survey conducted through the HR portal, showing overwhelming dissatisfaction with executive leadership, particularly Roger and Bradley. People didn't feel safe expressing these views before, Sarah explains. They feared retaliation. With good reason, apparently. Bradley attempts a last stand. This is a witch hunt. You came here looking to take over from the beginning. No, Sarah corrects. I came to evaluate whether Vertex was worth saving. The technology and most of the people are. The leadership is not. After hours of discussion, the board moves to vote on the acquisition proposal. Roger makes a final desperate appeal, highlighting his years of service and painting himself as a victim of political correctness gone mad. Chairman Davis calls for silence. The board has heard enough. We'll now vote on the Phoenix acquisition proposal. The vote proceeds methodically, each board member weighing not just the financial implications, but the legal and ethical considerations now impossible to ignore. When the final tally is announced, 11 in favor, 2 against, Roger's face crumples in disbelief. Effective immediately, Chairman Davis announces, Vertex Technologies will begin acquisition proceedings with Phoenix Innovations, with Sarah Connell serving as interim CEO during transition. Roger rises, knocking over his chair. You can't do this. I won't allow it. Security has already been notified, Sarah informs him quietly. Your access credentials have been deactivated. You have 30 minutes to collect personal belongings under escort. As if on cue, 2 security officers appear at the boardroom entrance. This isn't over, Roger seethes as he's escorted out, Bradley following sullenly behind. When they've gone, Sarah addresses the remaining executives. Phoenix Innovations doesn't just acquire companies. We transform them. This transition will be challenging but ultimately rewarding for those committed to building something better. She turns to Melissa. I believe you're one of those people. We'll need strong internal leaders who understand both what was and what can be. Later, as staff whisper about the boardroom drama and sudden departure of top executives, Sarah steps onto the main floor. Employees watch with curiosity and apprehension as she approaches the central area. Good afternoon, she begins. I'm Sarah Connell, CEO of Phoenix Innovations and now interim CEO of Vertex. Today marks the beginning of significant changes, all for the better. She speaks for just 5 minutes, outlining the acquisition without corporate jargon or empty promises. She acknowledges the uncertainty people must feel, but emphasizes that most jobs are secure. In fact, new opportunities for advancement will open immediately. The culture of fear and favoritism ends today, she concludes. What we build next, we build together. As she finishes, an engineer tentatively raises his hand. Does this mean the Nexus project will continue with your recommendations? Sarah smiles. It begins tomorrow. Report directly to me until we establish the new team structure. The ripple of cautious optimism spreading through the room is exactly what she hoped to see. This isn't just about acquisition, it's about transformation, and that's only beginning. 1 week after the acquisition announcement, Roger Whitman and Bradley Peters sit stonily in Vertex's largest conference room, now transformed into a makeshift hearing space. On one side of the long table, Sarah, Aisha, and the newly formed ethics committee comprising board members and employee representatives. On the other, Roger, Bradley, and their respective attorneys. This proceeding will determine severance terms and potential legal actions, Sarah begins, her tone businesslike but not vindictive. We have documented evidence of workplace discrimination, harassment, and possible financial impropriety. Roger's attorney interjects, "My client denies all allegations and reserves the right to pursue wrongful termination claims." "That's his prerogative," Aisha responds, unperturbed. "However, these aren't merely allegations." She methodically presents the evidence. Digital recordings of discriminatory comments, statistical analyses showing clear patterns of bias in hiring and promotion, testimonies from current and former employees, and documentation of retaliatory actions against those who raised concerns. The receptionist was instructed to treat certain visitors differently based on appearance, Aisha notes, displaying internal messages. Specifically to assume people of color were delivery personnel or junior staff, rather than executives or clients. Roger shifts uncomfortably as his own messages appear on screen. As the hearing progresses, more employees come forward, emboldened by the changing atmosphere. A former project manager describes being passed over for promotion 6 times while watching less qualified white colleagues advance. A talented engineer reveals how Roger reassigned her patent application to a male colleague. A financial analyst details how she was excluded from client meetings despite being the lead on accounts. Bradley attempts to dismiss these testimonies. Disgruntled employees seeking revenge. Everyone plays the victim these days. His comment triggers a response from an unexpected source. James Turner, the financial officer who had whispered warnings to Sarah, produces records showing systematic salary discrepancies. "I maintained separate spreadsheets," he explains, "because official requests to address these disparities were repeatedly denied." Roger's facade finally cracks. "This company operated in the real world, not some diversity utopia. We made hard business decisions based on client expectations and market realities." "You mean biases and prejudices," Sarah corrects. "Those aren't market realities, they're failures of leadership." Bradley attempts a different approach. "Sarah, be reasonable. Every company has issues. Taking this public helps no one. We could reach a private arrangement beneficial to all parties." "You mean covering up discrimination to protect your reputation?" Sarah asks. That approach ends today. The Ethics Committee deliberates briefly before delivering their unanimous decision. Termination for cause, no severance packages, and referral of financial discrepancies to external auditors for potential legal action. "You can't do this!" Roger shouts, standing abruptly. "I'll sue for defamation. I'll take this to every business publication." "You're welcome to try," Aisha responds calmly. "All evidence presented today will become part of the public record in any lawsuit you initiate." The color drains from Roger's face as he realizes the implications. His attorney whispers urgently in his ear. "This witch hunt might satisfy your social justice agenda," Bradley spits out. "But you've destroyed 2 careers over political correctness." "No," Sarah corrects. "Your own actions destroyed your careers. This is accountability, not persecution." Security personnel appear at the door, the same officers who had escorted them from the boardroom a week earlier. "Gentlemen," Sarah concludes, "your company devices and credentials have been fully deactivated. Security will escort you from the premises. Do not contact current employees. Any further communication should be directed through legal channels only." As they're led away, Roger turns back one last time. "This isn't over, Sarah." "For you, it is," she replies simply. After they've gone, Sarah remains at the table, reviewing notes from the hearing. Melissa enters quietly, placing a tablet before her. "The press has already picked up the story," she says. "Industry blogs are reporting on the acquisition and leadership changes." Sarah glances at the headlines. "Phoenix Innovations acquires Vertex in culture-focused deal, and tech giant implements immediate leadership changes after acquisition." "It's beginning," Sarah notes, not with triumph, but with the sober recognition of the work ahead. "The hard part?" Melissa asks. "The important part," Sarah corrects. "Removing toxic leadership is just the first step. Changing ownership is just the first step. Changing culture is the real work ahead." 3 months later, Sarah stands at the podium of the National Technology Leadership Conference, addressing a packed auditorium of industry executives, investors, and media representatives. Behind her, a screen displays the new Vertex Phoenix logo and the conference theme, Building Inclusive Innovation, Culture as Competitive Advantage. "When Phoenix acquired Vertex Technologies," Sarah begins, "industry analysts focused primarily on the financial and technological implications. Today, I want to share the more significant outcome: how transforming company culture directly improved innovation, retention, and profitability." The presentation screen shifts to show comparative metrics, before and after the acquisition. Employee retention has increased 34%. Patent applications have doubled. The Nexus project, once on the verge of failure, now exceeds performance targets and has secured 3 new major clients. "These aren't coincidental improvements," Sarah emphasizes. "They're the direct result of dismantling systemic barriers and empowering previously sidelined talent." She outlines specific changes implemented during the transition: standardized interview protocols to reduce bias, transparent promotion criteria, mentorship programs pairing senior leaders with promising employees from underrepresented groups, and salary adjustments eliminating racial and gender pay gaps. "Some warned these changes would harm profitability," Sarah acknowledges. "The data proves otherwise. Quarter-over-quarter growth has increased by 18% since implementation." In the audience, executives lean forward, taking notes. The business case, demonstrated through hard metrics rather than moral arguments, resonates even with former skeptics. Sarah highlights specific success stories without names: the receptionist who revealed her business administration degree and now manages client relations; the repeatedly passed-over engineer whose innovations now lead the Nexus project; the financial analyst whose market insights have opened new revenue streams. "Talent was always there," Sarah states firmly. "What changed was creating an environment where it could flourish." Industry publications covering the conference feature Sarah's presentation prominently. Headlines like "Phoenix Vertex Case Study Challenges Tech's Culture Problem" and "Inclusion Drives Innovation," the metrics behind Phoenix's success, spread throughout business networks. At the post-presentation reception, Sarah finds herself approached by CEOs who had previously dismissed diversity initiatives as HR matters rather than strategic priorities. "Your metrics are compelling," admits the CEO of a competing firm. "We've been approaching this all wrong, treating inclusion as compliance rather than competitive advantage." "It's never too late to change course," Sarah responds. Another executive confides, "We've had 3 discrimination complaints this year. I've been handling them as PR problems to manage, but your approach suggests they're symptoms of deeper issues." "Exactly," Sarah confirms. "Treating symptoms while ignoring the disease ensures the problem persists." Behind these conversations, Sarah notices representatives from multiple companies huddled with Melissa, now Vertex Phoenix's chief culture officer, eagerly discussing implementation strategies. Later that evening, Sarah receives a message that the conference's highest honor, the Innovation Leadership Award, typically given for technological breakthroughs, will be presented to Phoenix Innovations for revolutionary approaches to organizational culture. The industry, traditionally resistant to change, shows signs of a significant shift. Companies that once competed solely on technical specifications now evaluate their cultural infrastructure with the same rigor. They're finally seeing it, Marcus observes as they review the day's outcomes. Culture isn't soft, it's fundamental. Sarah nods, watching competing firms scramble to assess their own practices. They're seeing it because we showed them the cost of ignoring it. But the most important conversation happened behind closed doors, away from the spotlight. Evening light streams through the windows of Sarah's office at the renovated Vertex Phoenix headquarters. The space, once Rogers' domain of mahogany and hunting trophies, now features clean lines, collaborative workspaces, and walls showcasing employee innovations rather than executive accolades. Melissa enters carrying 2 cups of tea, closing the door behind her. The formality of their early interactions has evolved into a relationship of mutual respect and cautious friendship. Conference feedback is overwhelmingly positive, Melissa reports, taking a seat. 3 companies have already requested consulting on implementing similar cultural transformations. Sarah accepts the tea with a nod. Good. Though I worry some are looking for quick fixes rather than fundamental change. Like diet pills instead of lifestyle changes? Melissa suggests. Exactly. There's no shortcut to building genuine inclusion. Silence settles between them. Not uncomfortable, but thoughtful. Beyond the windows, employees depart for the day, laughing and conversing in the parking lot, a stark contrast to the tense, hurried exits under previous leadership. I've been meaning to say something, Melissa finally offers, her voice quieter. About my role in everything before. Sarah waits, giving her space to continue. I saw what was happening, the discrimination, the hostility, the missed opportunities. I didn't participate, but I didn't stop it either. Melissa looks directly at Sarah. My silence made me complicit. Why did you stay? Sarah asks, not accusingly, but with genuine curiosity. At first, career advancement. Later, I told myself I was helping by being one of the good ones in leadership. Melissa's laugh holds no humor. Classic rationalization. Truth is, I was afraid of becoming a target myself. Sarah considers this. Fear is a powerful silencer. Not an excuse, though. No, Sarah agrees. But understanding why good people enable broken systems helps us dismantle them more effectively. She shares wisdom from her mentor, Dr. Wright. Systems persist because challenging them carries real costs. Creating environments where speaking up is rewarded rather than punished, that's the real work of leadership. Their conversation shifts to measurable progress. Employees previously overlooked now thriving in expanded roles. The elimination of pay disparities, innovation metrics reaching record highs, and most telling, exit interviews showing dramatic improvements in workplace satisfaction. The junior developers who left after 6 months because they felt unwelcome, Melissa notes. We haven't lost one since the transition. As evening deepens outside, they discuss the road ahead. The transformation remains ongoing. Cultural change isn't achieved through policy announcements, but through consistent, sustained effort at all levels. I still wonder sometimes, Melissa admits, what would have happened if you'd revealed your identity immediately, skipped the undercover phase entirely? Sarah considers this. I would have seen their best behavior, not their true culture, and we needed to understand the depth of the problem to address it properly. Like a diagnostic before treatment, Melissa suggests. Precisely. Sarah sets down her cup. And it allowed those who were part of the problem to reveal themselves clearly, while those who wanted change had the opportunity to demonstrate that too. As they prepare to leave, Melissa pauses at the door. You know what I find most remarkable? The company's performance speaks for itself. The moral case for inclusion is clear, but you've proven the business case is equally compelling. Sarah smiles. That's how lasting change happens, when doing the right thing and the smart thing align perfectly. They walk together through the now quiet office, where employees once hurried with heads down, avoiding executive attention. Personal touches now adorn desks. Photos of diverse families, cultural mementos, and even small plants transform the once sterile environment into a space where people bring their whole selves to work. Sarah Connell's experience isn't isolated. Workplace discrimination continues to affect millions of professionals daily, often in subtle ways that individual victims feel powerless to address. Studies show that 58% of employees have witnessed discrimination at work, while 3 in 5 victims never report incidents, fearing retaliation. Yet companies with inclusive cultures outperform their peers by 35% financially. What makes Sarah's story powerful isn't just the satisfaction of seeing accountability. It's the demonstration that addressing discrimination isn't just morally right, it's smart business. If you're experiencing workplace discrimination, consider these strategies from Sarah's playbook. Document everything. Sarah's methodical recording of interactions provided irrefutable evidence when the moment for action arrived. Keep detailed records of problematic encounters, including dates, times, witnesses, and exact statements. Build alliances. Notice how Sarah identified potential allies like Melissa and James within the existing structure. Look for colleagues who demonstrate ethical concerns and may support positive change. Know your worth. Sarah's confidence remained unshaken because she knew her value irrespective of how others perceived her. Remember that others' biased treatment reflects their limitations, not yours. If this story resonated with you, please like and subscribe to Beat Stories for more powerful narratives of justice and transformation. New stories every week that will inspire, empower, and remind you that change is always possible. Turn on notifications so you never miss our latest uploads. Thank you for listening to Beat Stories, where we transform experiences into empowerment.